Hey everyone, welcome back to US Tax with Pavan. This is day 5 of our free 60-day course. Today we're going to break down two things you see on every single paycheck, your SSN and FICA. Now, FICA is that chunk of money that disappears from your pay before you even touch it. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what it is, who pays it, how much, and most importantly for tax preparers and EA students, where every number lands on the tax return. Let's make it simple and easy. So here's our game plan for today. First, your SSN, what it is and how you apply for it. Second, FICA itself, the Social Security and Medicare payroll tax. Third, the Social Security tax and its wage cap. Fourth, the Medicare tax with no cap. Fifth, the extra 0.9% additional Medicare tax for high earners. And finally, the part preparers love, how all of this gets reported, the W-2 boxes, and the Form 1040 flow. Let's start at the beginning. First, what is an SSN? It's your Social Security number, a 9-digit number, in the format 3 digits, 2 digits for digits. It's issued by the SSA, the Social Security Administration, not the IRS. That's a common mix-up. Think of it as your lifelong ID in America. You need it for work, for filing taxes, for banking, and to build credit. And here's the tax prep point. Your SSN goes right at the top of Form 1040. That's how the IRS matches your tax return to your W-2. So how do you actually get an SSN? You apply using Form SS-5. That's the application for a Social Security card, your source document. You file it for free at a local SSA office, and you bring proof of identity, age, and that you're authorized to work. Quick note for preparers. If someone can't get an SSN, say a non-resident who isn't work authorized, they'd apply for an ITIN using Form W-7 instead. But that's a different lane we'll cover another day. Now let's talk FICA. FICA stands for the Federal Insurance Contributions Act. In plain English, it's the payroll tax on your wages. And here's the key. It's really two taxes bundled into one, Social Security and Medicare. The most important thing to remember is this. FICA is completely separate from your federal income tax. It comes straight out of your paycheck automatically, before you ever see the money. So where do you actually see FICA? Two places. First, on every paycheck stub, you'll see line items literally labeled Social Security and Medicare. Second, at year end, it all shows up on your W-2, which is your source document. Specifically, Box 3 shows your Social Security wages, and Box 4 shows the Social Security tax withheld. Box 5 shows Medicare wages, and Box 6 the Medicare tax. Here's a pro tip. Box 1, your taxable wages for income tax, is often lower than Box 3 and 5 because FICA is calculated on that bigger number. Let's break FICA into its two halves, starting with Social Security tax. As the employee, you pay 6.2% of your wages towards Social Security. What does it buy you? Your future retirement, disability, and survivor benefits. It's not money down the drain. You're building credits toward your own benefits. And remember, the dollar amount withheld shows up in Box 4 of your W-2. Now, here's something important about Social Security tax. It has a wage cap. For 2025, you only pay Social Security tax on your first $176,100 of wages. Or more than that. No additional Social Security tax on the rest, it simply stops. So the maximum Social Security tax an employee pays in 2025 is $176,100 times 6.2%, which is about $10,918. Here's a part many people don't realize. Your employer matches your Social Security tax. You pay 6.2%, and your employer quietly pays another 6.2% on your behalf, straight to the IRS. So Social Security is really funded by both sides. 6.2 plus 6.2 equals 12.4% total. You only see your half come out of your paycheck. The second half of FICA is Medicare tax. As the employee, you pay 1.45% of your wages for Medicare. And here's the big difference from Social Security. Medicare has no wage cap. Every single dollar you earn is taxed at 1.45%, no matter how high your salary goes. The amount withheld shows up in Box 6 of your W-2. And just like Social Security, Medicare is matched too. You pay 1.45% and your employer pays another 1.45%. So Medicare is funded by both sides. 1.45 plus 1.45 equals 2.9% total. Same pattern as before, both sides chip in. Let's put it all together. As the employee, you pay 7.65% total. That's 6.2 for Social Security plus 1.45 for Medicare. Your employer pays another 7.65%. So altogether, 15.3% of your wages goes to fund Social Security and Medicare. That's your full FICA picture. Let's make this real with an example. Imagine Bhavani earns $100,000 in 2025. Her Social Security tax is $100,000 times 6.2%, which is $6,200. Her Medicare is $100,000 times 1.45%, which is $1,450. Add them up. Her total employee FICA is $7,650. All of this is withheld through payroll and shows up on her W-2 in Box 4 and Box 6. Let's look at FICA across a few salaries, employee share only, using 2025 rates. At $50,000, Social Security is $3,100, Medicare is $725, total FICA $3,825. At $75,000, total FICA $5,738. And at $100,000, total FICA $7,650. Notice it just scales up steadily as wages rise. Now watch what happens at higher salaries near the Social Security cap. At $150,000, total FICA is $11,475. At the cap of $176,100, total FICA is about $13,471. But at $200,000, look closely, Social Security freezes at $10,918 because it's capped, while Medicare keeps climbing. That's the key behavior to understand. So read the table this way. Below $176,100, Social Security tax keeps growing at 6.2%. The moment your wages cross that cap, Social Security tax freezes at $10,918.20. But Medicare keeps right on going at 1.45% on every dollar, with no ceiling at all. Social Security caps, Medicare never does. Now what if you're self-employed? Here's the twist. There's no employer to match you, so you owe both halves yourself, the full 15.3%. This is called self-employment tax, and you report it on Schedule SE. But here's the good news. You get to deduct half of that SE tax as an adjustment on Schedule 1, which lowers your AGI on Form 1040. So you pay more, but you get a break for it. Let me clear up one big confusion. FICA is not income tax. They're two completely separate taxes leaving your paycheck. FICA is a flat rate, 7.65% for the employee, and it funds Social Security and Medicare. You see it in W-2 boxes 3 through 6. Federal income tax, on the other hand, uses graduated brackets, funds the general government, and gets settled on Form 1040. You see it in W-2 box 2. Different taxes, different purposes. So where does all your FICA money actually go? It's not lost. It buys you future benefits. Your Social Security portion funds your retirement checks, plus disability and survivor protection. Your Medicare portion funds your health coverage once you turn 65. The system works like this. Today's workers fund today's retirees, and one day, the next generation funds you. Let's lock in the rate picture one more time. Social Security is 12.4% total, 6.2 from you, 6.2 from your employer. Medicare is 2.9% total, 1.45 from each side. Add those together, and you get 15.3% combined FICA. And for high earners, there's an extra 0.9% coming up next. For the tax preparers and EA students watching, here are the 4 W-2 boxes you check first for FICA. Box 3 is Social Security wages, up to that $176,100 cap. Box 4 is the Social Security tax withheld. That's box 3 times 6.2%. Box 5 is Medicare wages, with no cap. And Box 6 is the Medicare tax withheld. Box 5 times 1.45%. Memorize these four. Let's do a quick recap of Part 1. Your SSN is your tax ID, and it goes at the top of Form 1040. FICA is Social Security at 6.2% plus Medicare at 1.45%. The employee pays 7.65%, and combined with the employer, it's 15.3%. Social Security caps at $176,100. Medicare never caps. Next up, the additional Medicare tax, exemptions, and how to report everything. Now let's talk about the additional Medicare tax, the extra 0.9%. This is the slice that high earners pay on top of regular Medicare. If you prepare taxes, this one trips people up, so let's get it crystal clear what it is, when it applies, and exactly how you report it. So what is the additional Medicare tax? It's an extra 0.9% tax, and it only applies to people who earn a high salary. Here's the key. It sits on top of the regular 1.45% Medicare tax. It does not replace it. So a high earner effectively pays 1.45 plus 0.9, which is 2.35% Medicare on the high part of their wages. Think of it as a small surcharge once your income crosses a line. Now, when does that 0.9% kick in? It depends on your filing status. If you're single or head of household, it starts on wages above $200,000. If you're married filing jointly, it's above $250,000 combined. And if you're married filing separately, it's above just $125,000. Same tax, 3 different thresholds. Now don't panic about this one. The 0.9% is not charged on your whole salary, only on the part above your threshold. Let me show you. If you're single and you earn $230,000, the extra 0.9% only hits the $30,000 above $200,000, not the entire $230,000. So it's a small tax on a small slice. Here's how your employer handles it, and this is important for preparers. Your employer starts withholding the extra 0.9% once your wages pass $200,000 in the year, and they do this regardless of your filing status. The employer does not match this 0.9%, unlike regular FICA. Then your tax return trues it up to your actual threshold based on how you file. So how do you report it? Follow the form flow. Step 1. You calculate the extra tax on Form 8959. Step 2. That result flows on to Schedule 2, which is for additional taxes. Step 3. Schedule 2 carries over to your Form 1040. So the path is Form 8959, then Schedule 2, then Form 1040. Memorize that flow. Let's run an example. A single filer earning $250,000 in 2025. Social Security is capped. $176,100 times 6.2% equals $10,918. Regular Medicare is $250,000 times 1.45%, which is $3,625. Now the additional Medicare. That's the $50,000 above the $200,000 threshold times 0.9%, which is $450. Total employee FICA, about $14,993. Quick recap on the additional Medicare tax. It's 0.9% on wages above your threshold, $200,000 for single, $250,000 for married filing jointly, $125,000 for married filing separately. It's employee only, no employer match. You figure it on Form 8959, and it flows through Schedule 2 to Form 1040. Got it. Let's move on. Now let's cover something really important for students and scholars, FICA exemptions by visa. Here's the surprising part. Some visa holders don't pay FICA at all, at least for a while. If you prepare taxes for international students or work in a university payroll office, you need to know this cold. So here's the big idea. Some visas are FICA exempt. Certain visa holders do not pay Social Security or Medicare tax for a set period. Why? Because during that window, they're treated as a non-resident alien for tax purposes. That exemption saves them the full 7.65% employee FICA on their wages. But remember, it's temporary. It ends after a few years. Let's start with F1 and OPT students. They are FICA exempt for the first 5 calendar years in the United States. During those years, they're a non-resident alien. And here's a critical tax prep point. They must file Form 8843 every year, even if they had no income at all. Form 8843 is their reporting document that proves the exempt status. Don't skip it. Next, J1 scholars and researchers. This includes research fellows, professors, and exchange visitors. They're FICA exempt for the first 2 calendar years. Note that's 2, not 5 like the students. The paperwork is the same. They file Form 8843 for each exempt year. So F1 gets 5 years, J1 scholars get 2. Now, who does not get an exemption? H1B, L1, and green card holders. These statuses are treated as resident for tax, so full FICA applies. H1B workers pay from the very first paycheck. L1 transfers. No exemption, FICA from day one. And green card holders always pay FICA, with no exemption ever. If you're on one of these, FICA comes out from day one. Here's the whole exemption picture at a glance. F1 and OPT. Yes, exempt. First 5 years, file Form 8843. J1 scholar. Yes, exempt. First 2 years, Form 8843. H1B, no exemption. L1, no exemption. Green card, no exemption. This little table is your quick reference whenever a client's visa comes up. Let's zoom in on Form 8843. What is it? It's a statement showing you're an exempt non-resident alien. Who files it? F1, OPT, and J1 holders during their exempt years. And here's the key. It's filed with your tax return if you have income, or it's filed all by itself if you have no income at all. So even a student with 0 earnings still files Form 8843 every exempt year. Now, what if FICA was wrongly withheld while you were exempt? It happens. An employer doesn't realize the student is exempt and takes FICA out anyway. Here's the fix. First, ask your employer to refund it and correct it. If they won't, you claim it back from the IRS using Form 843 along with Form 8316. Keep your pay stubs and visa records as proof. Why does this exemption matter so much? Because it's real money. That 7.65% is the employee FICA you completely skip while you're exempt. On a $40,000 graduate assistantship, that's about $3,060 saved every single year. For a student on a tight budget, that's huge, and it's why getting the exemption right matters. One thing preparers must get right: how you count the 5 years. It's calendar years, not 12-month periods. And here's the catch. Any part of a year counts as a whole year. So if an F1 student arrives in December 2021, that entire year 2021 counts as year 1. The exemption would run through 2025, and then it ends. Count carefully. What happens after the exemption ends? Once your 5 years, or 2 years for J1, are up, you usually become a resident alien for tax purposes. From that point, FICA starts. The full 7.65% now comes out of your paycheck. You also stop filing Form 8843 and start filing like a normal resident. The good news: you don't have to do anything. Payroll just begins withholding it automatically. A quick note on self-employment for exempt folks. FICA exemptions cover your wages. A non-resident alien who's exempt generally does not owe self-employment tax either while exempt. But the moment you become a resident, your self-employment income gets hit with the full 15.3% SE tax on Schedule SE. So the exemption clock matters for self-employed income too. Let's recap Part 2. Additional Medicare is an extra 0.9% on wages above your threshold. The thresholds are 200,000 single, 250,000 married filing jointly, 125,000 married filing separately. You report it on Form 8959, which flows to Schedule 2, then Form 1040, with no employer match. F1 and OPT are exempt the first 5 years, J1 the first 2, both file Form 8843. And H1B, L1, and Green Card pay from day 1. Wrongly withheld? Reclaim with Form 843 plus 8316. Great. So now you know the 0.9% surtax and the visa exemptions. High earners pay a little extra Medicare on Form 8959. Students and scholars get a FICA break for a few years using Form 8843. The rule is simple. Know the visa, know the rule, and you'll report it right every single time. Now let's see how all of this lands on the actual tax return. Here's the part tax preparers really need: how FICA flows onto the tax return. We're going to follow the paper trail. FICA starts on your W-2. Your SSN sits at the top of Form 1040, and special items ride along on Schedules 1, 2, and 3. Let's trace every number from the documents to the 1040. First, the W-2, your FICA source document. Let's read it box by box. Box 1 is your wages for income tax. Box 3 is Social Security wages, capped at $176,100. Box 4 is the Social Security tax withheld, 6.2%. Box 5 is Medicare wages, with no cap. And Box 6 is the Medicare tax withheld, 1.45%. Every FICA number on the return traces back to these boxes. Next, your SSN goes at the top of Form 1040. It's entered in the box right beside your name at the very top of the return. Filing jointly. Your spouse's SSN goes in the second box. Type it exactly as printed on the Social Security card. One wrong digit can get your e-file rejected. This is how the IRS and SSA match your wages and your earnings credits. Here's a key idea preparers must understand. FICA is already withheld. You do not re-enter it as a deduction on Form 1040. It came out of every paycheck already. What does flow to the 1040 payment section is your federal income tax withheld from W-2 Box 2. FICA, Boxes 4 and 6, simply funds your Social Security and Medicare. It is not a line on the 1040 itself. Now the additional Medicare tax flow on Form 8959. You compute the extra 0.9% on the wages over your threshold on Form 8959. That result carries to Schedule 2, the additional taxes schedule. Schedule 2 then flows to Form 1040 on the line for additional taxes. And Form 8959 also reconciles any extra Medicare your employer already withheld during the year. So 8959, then Schedule 2, then 1040. For the self-employed, here's the Schedule SE flow. You figure your SE tax, the full 15.3%, on Schedule SE. That carries to Schedule 2 and adds to your total tax on Form 1040. But you also get relief. You deduct 1/2 of your SE tax on Schedule 1, which is above the line, so it flows to Form 1040 and lowers your AGI. Pay the tax, take the deduction. Here's a great one preparers should never miss: the excess Social Security credit. Say someone has 2 jobs in 2025. Each employer caps Social Security at $176,100 on its own, so together they can overwithhold. For example, Raj earns $120,000 at one job and $90,000 at another, totaling $210,000. Social Security got withheld on all of it, but the cap is $176,100. That overwithheld 6.2% on the excess is claimed as a credit on Schedule 3, which flows to Form 1040. Free money back for your client. Let's tie it all together with one clean example. Anita earns $120,000. One employer, 2025. Her W-2 shows Box 3 Social Security wages of $120,000 and Box 4 Social Security tax of $7,000 for $140. Box 5 Medicare wages of $120,000 and Box 6 Medicare of $1,740. She's under $200,000, so no additional Medicare and no Form 8959. One employer, so no excess Social Security credit. Her SSN goes at the top of the 1040, and her Box 2 income tax withholding flows to payments. Done. A simple W-2 return where FICA needs no extra forms. Here's a FICA cheat sheet for preparers. Pin this. Social Security, 6.2% employee, capped at $176,100 for 2025. Medicare, 1.45%, no cap. Additional Medicare, 0.9% over the thresholds on Form 8959. Employee FICA totals 7.65%, combined 15.3. Self-employed pay all 15.3 on Schedule SE with a half deduction on Schedule 1. F1 and OPT exempt 5 years, J1 2 years, via Form 8843. Excess Social Security from 2 employers goes on Schedule 3, and wrong FICA is reclaimed with Form 843. Let's cover the common mistakes to avoid. For exempt students, forgetting to file Form 8843 or letting an employer wrongly withhold FICA instead of fixing it with Form 843. For people with 2 employers, missing the excess Social Security credit on Schedule 3, which leaves real refund money on the table. And for high earners, using the wrong filing status threshold on Form 8959. Watch for these 3 and you'll save your clients money. Let's go through the day 5 key takeaways. 1. Your SSN comes from the SSA via Form SS5 and links you to your earnings record. 2. FICA is Social Security plus Medicare, the payroll tax on your wages. 3. The employee pays 7.65%, the employer matches it, combined 15.3. 4. Social Security caps at $176,100 for 2025. Medicare has no cap. 5. Additional Medicare of 0.9% kicks in over the threshold via Form 8959. 6. The W-2 boxes 3 through 6 are your FICA source, and the SSN sits atop Form 1040. 7. The self-employed pay all 15.3 but deduct half on Schedule 1. And 8. F1 is exempt 5 years, J1 2 years. Reclaim errors with Form 843. All right, quiz time. Question 1. What percent is the employee's total FICA? Take a second. The answer is B, 7.65%. That's 6.2 for Social Security plus 1.45 for Medicare. Question 2. What is the 2025 Social Security wage base? The answer is C, $176,100. Above that amount, no more Social Security tax for the year. Question 3. The additional Medicare tax is reported on which form? The answer is B, Form 8959. Remember the flow, 8,959 to Schedule 2 to Form 1040. And question 4. F1 students are FICA exempt for how many years? The answer is C, 5 years, counted in calendar years. J1 scholars, by contrast, get 2. If you got these right, you've really got FICA down. And that's the end of day 5. We covered the SSN, the full FICA breakdown, the additional Medicare tax, the visa exemptions, and exactly how every piece flows onto Form 1040. This lesson was created by Ashamani Pavan Kumar. You can reach me at .pavankumar144@gmail.com. Thank you so much for watching and keep learning. If this helped you, please like the video, share it, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a lesson. I'll see you in day 6. Take care.